Pause. I think I just said wrap this butter up. Did I just say wrap this butter up?
Butter buddy, I think
That's
is what came out.
That was not the words that I was looking for. It's not at all.
Don't fix it in post.
No, definitely not. Butter and buddy is definitely going to be in there. Somebody's going to be like, did that motherfucker just say butter buddy? And he's trying to make money off this podcast? What the fuck's happening over here? I don't know why my guy who's criticizing me sounds like that, but every guy who criticizes my podcast sounds like that for some reason. I have no idea.
Inquisitively criticizing.
This motherfucker got a squeaky chair.
You upward inflection in the voice at the end of the
Like he's always listening. And who would be listening to the podcast with another person? But he's listening to a podcast with another person. Like, this motherfucker says. Does this motherfucker say? With that being said, for the 90th time in that fucking episode, he says that shit a lot, doesn't he? Like,
imaginative fan sits on the couch with his wife and watches it.
The wife's like, no!
Has live conversation through the whole thing.
That's the whole conversation, is just him upwardsly questioning.
Did I hear that right?
This motherfucker got pink eye again! This is definitely going to be a bonus. Alright.
Time to get your fix. It's a horrible gaming podcast. It's not good, it's not great. Horrible gaming podcast. It's not even what you would call fair. It's really not that good. Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Hello, my name is Zach Rye with Old Man Gaming. You, dear listener, have chosen, for whatever reason, to listen to another horrible gaming podcast. I am not alone, nor am I usually never alone. With me today is a very special guest, and his name is...
Yo, what's up, old man fam? Philbilly 330 here, back again, once again, into the podcast.
Bill Master General! Foundation member. Yes. Neil is on vacation. God bless his soul. So Philbilly 330 is filling in for him today, and we've got a fun show because, yeah, I know there was live streams. I know there was the summer of gaming. I know there was the direct. We're not going to talk about any of that shit. Maybe a little bit in the news, but we're gonna have fun. We're gonna talk about something I've dipped my toes in, but Phil has dove in head first to, which is strategy games. We're going to talk about our favorite strategy games. We're going to talk about the difference between each of the different strategy games, kind of give you a beginner's guide to strategy games, and we're going to go through everything we love and hate about strategy games. But before we get into that, we got to thank the people who have made this podcast possible. Behind our ugly mugs, you're seeing a fancy graphic that is provided by Mr. Mark Bell. We thank him for that. And then, of course, the theme song for this show and all the shows here at Old Man Gaming are provided by the man who makes the music, my brother Nick Van Sliders. We thank him for that. We will be right back with fan interaction.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Alright, so that brings us to our first segment, our most important segment, that is fan interaction. That's where we, the co-hosts, we talk to you guys, the fans, we read out all your comments and all the places we get them and can remember to reread them. Now listen, guys, last week I was on vacation. You guys heard a pre-recorded horrible arena episode, and it was between me and Neil, so I'm going to save that fan interaction for next week when Neil's back and we're recording together so we could decide who the winners is. Plus, it gives you an extra week if you haven't voted to vote on who won. And please do, because I think I'm losing right now. But we are going to read the comments from 2 weeks ago. First off, Jason. Back for Blood DLC are cool. One adds these instances you can find in a map where you can earn skull points to get stuff with, and added a new variant for each basic ridden type, and 2 more cleaners, one of whom is a chef, and he is awesomely insane. The other adds a new chapter with an old dinosaur theme park with new human enemies, more weapons like claws and crossbows, and a new cleaner with a pet ridden, where if she's in the party, there's a device hidden on the map anyone can find and use to summon the pet tall boy. The cool thing about these DLC is that everyone in the party can do the DLC stuff as well as the person in the party who has the DLC, which is awesome. 2 weeks ago we were talking about our favorite DLCs of all time, which we've all talked about how evil DLC has become, but in its core, it's supposed to extend a gameplay experience that you like, and the Back 4 Blood DLC I have heard is really cool. I could just never find a group to play that game regularly, and it's just not fun alone. The AI is just not there for you.
Yeah, I played that a little while when it first came out with you guys, but
Yeah.
I didn't keep up with it too much.
I think that there was a couple of things they could have done a little bit better in the beginning to kind of keep people on board, but it just like all of my friend groups were like, oh, this is fun, we're gonna go play this now, and then it was like, okay, all right. So Jason then continues, since I buy games on sale, I've been playing Dead by Daylight and semi-old games. Right now I'm playing Control with both DLC. I started over because it's been a couple of years, and also saves don't transfer to the upgraded version. Come on, guys. Also, I approve of making the talking point something else and merging news and odds and ends. Also, as a fan of Cyberpunk, parentheses, especially the red-headed stepchild of the genre, Shadowrun, megacorporations being evil is sort of par for the course. So I'm kind of inoculated against the evil and depressing aspect, because since it's just what megacorporations are, like an elemental force of humanity. I don't necessarily disagree with that. The problem is that there are things about it that just trigger me. They just trigger me, and that's one of the reasons I just couldn't do the podcast the same way anymore. Just coming down here and talking about sadists and rapists and fucking greedy, evil people once a week was just not fun for me anymore.
Yeah, I have to agree. I'm glad you guys kind of are getting away from that, because I'll admit I was starting to not watch as much, and
I get it.
It's everything right now. The companies at this point in time are more worried about shareholders than customers, and it leads to bad. I think eventually, though, and even in some aspects, it goes into politics and a bunch of stuff that doesn't really need to be discussed by people who are a gaming channel.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Where we may or may not be very educated on the matter, and it's just a mess, and it's in everything right now, and hopefully things will start to change in the future, but there's no sense in blaming on those topics that are so deep and so muddied.
And that's exactly what it is. It's just deep and muddied. You can't really get to the core of anything, and it's like every time, I don't know. You're right, and I think that like there's just so many aspects of like the company's gonna company, mentality that it's just okay. Company's gonna company. We can't be. We don't have to be happy about it though. And gaming is just, it has so many sadistic levels of like, if the minute you buy it, they've already won. That you don't get a refund. It doesn't matter. Like the minute you've paid for the thing, they've already won, and that I think drives me. And that's another reason I changed it. Is I kind of like when I started this, I had always promised myself I would never blame the consumer for picking up a game. And basically I started to blame the consumers for picking up games, and that's just not conducive with it. So I'm glad you like it, Jason. We're going to continue to do it as we are tonight. I think spending slightly less time on news while still giving you guys the news still checks all the boxes too. William Hawoon then continues, "Hi! Exclamation point. I also approve of the new direction you're taking for the podcast. On DLC, I always enjoyed the idea of having more of a game I like. But day one DLC? Yeah, I don't want that for sure. As far as what my favorite is, I don't really know, as I usually play games quite late and buy like the all-included edition. But my favorite DLC would probably come from Fallout 3. Can't remember the name, though. There's a lot to be said about updates that makes the game less enjoyable for you. Patches that change some mechanics you enjoyed, and now they're gone. And you can't go back to the previous versions. Make no sense in all fine games. On Project Q, I don't understand really what's the difference between Project Q and streaming my PlayStation on my phone with my Kishi plugged in. Yes, exactly. The Overwatch 2 No More PvE, when PvE was the reason that they were making is peak modern gaming. What a fantastic example, parentheses, that will make loads of money anyway, so they win, exactly. They have fun playing in Highland as Lank. Oh my fucking god. Laugh out loud. Thanks for the show. Hashtag FatBit. Indeed. Hashtag FatBit indeed. Yeah, I don't know, what was your favorite DLC ever there, Phil?
It's so tough. I actually agree with you with both. I thought Borderlands 1 and the General Knox was awesome.
Yeah.
And that was also like, I was not a gamer until then.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I played games, but not like that hardcore. And
yeah.
It added a lot of content. And then Borderlands 2, I liked some of their DLCs too. Like, I don't even remember what it was called, but they had that arena thing that they added to the end with the OP levels.
Yeah.
Just added so much more hours of playability to that looter shooter genre as far as chasing new things, and which some people may call mundane, and I've even started to feel that way in recent years. But back when that came out, I loved that. And then recently, the Wastelands 3 DLCs I really enjoyed. I don't know if you ever.
I didn't. I really liked Wasteland 3, but it was one of those that just took up too much time at the time I was playing it for me to ever like stay with it long enough.
The topic we are going to talk today is time.
Oh yeah. Jason actually commented on his and said day one DLC is an abomination. I don't think we need to spend time on that. It is an abomination. Agreed. Without a doubt. If it's part of the game, put it in the game. Like, DLC, at its core, was supposed to be something that extended the length of a game after you had already played through everything. Day one means you literally cut off a chunk of it and decided to sell it for more money. One of the reasons I didn't nominate any of the Borderlands 2, I said 2 weeks ago, is because Borderlands 2, unfortunately, was one of the earliest proponents of the Day 1 DLC with the Necromancer.
Yes, the characters were.
Mm-hmm. And so I still have some residual. I'm still holding that grudge. So I can't recommend them.
That's what led to Borderlands 3 and sequential games being that way.
Mm-hmm.
No, I agree.
Jason, go ahead.
I was just saying, like, that's what. Although Borderlands 2 was my favorite Borderlands, it also led to the downfall of the series.
Yep.
Kind of.
Yeah, and that's one of the big problems with that one, is it definitely was the downslope. But Borderlands always was a trendsetter in the DLC with General Knox, and they were then a trendsetter with Necromancer, because there wasn't really a whole lot of Day 1 DLC out there before the Necromancer popped up, and then everybody started doing it. Not even just the Borderlands companies, and it's like, man, you guys trendset it in the wrong way on that one. Alright, so Jason continues. Cage is not in the next DLC. He's coming later this year. Next DLC is an alien meatball slicer killer and a clone survivor with an alien map. Bring me Cage. Bring me Cage! And make him a killer, too, please.
The Nicolas Cage thing.
Yeah, for Dead by Daylight. Yeah, he's a survivor. He's an upcoming survivor in Dead by Daylight. I want him to be a killer, too. I want to play it, because I don't play survivors. I fucking hate playing survivors. I only play Survivor when my other friend group forces me to. When they're all on and they're like, Zach, get on and play. And I'm like, fuck. And then I always play the same Survivor, and I let them all die because I just want to be done. Continuing, Redfall is like they completed 75% of every part of it and then threw it together. I really, really wanted to like it, but it's not a finished game. And yeah. I mean, just watch Redfall Down, our Let's Play, which a lot of you have. It is unfortunately getting tons of views, so I cannot cancel it. But it's the biggest problem I have with Redfall is it's not even I'm just playing a game that's shitty, because I could take fun in that because I know what I'm doing. I'm playing a game where you are witnessing all the good ideas just getting crapped on by them releasing it early and not releasing it right, and all this shit has come out about that now, where like the developers of Redfall wanted to cancel the game because they didn't like it, and Microsoft was like, nope, plug it out the door. Like, that kind of stuff is it's just so infuriating to me. That could have been the new Borderlands, you know what I mean? Like, when you really play it, you see the systems, and you're like, this could have been amazing, but every system is missing one key element that makes it fun, you know?
Yeah, and it doesn't run very well.
Oh, it runs terrible. I mean, just watch my episodes. They're fucking just freezing. It's terrible. It is absolutely terrible. Jason, if you like smashing things and building gear, you'll like Dismantle. Just sucks, it's only multiplayer on couch. Really? I didn't know that. I've heard nothing but rave reviews from William Holen on Dismantle. We've had Dismantle come up in our comments and our awards multiple times. So at some point, I'm going to have to just give it a shot just to see what it's all about. And then Jason, I wanted to like Alan Wake, but I absolutely sucked at it, so I had to walk away. Then it left Game Pass. I don't like Alan Wake. It's not. I got problems with any game that doesn't end in a way that explains things. I've spent too much time in it. You can't make a fucking Twilight Zone ending in a game that I spent fucking 40 hours on. You just can't do that. Jason then finishes with our last comment. I don't buy the game in the first place. It's on Game Pass, I'll check it out. If it's on sale for $1, I'll check it out. I utterly refuse to pay $70 for a game. I can get 10 pounds of licorice Starlights for that much money, which is more awesome than most of the shit shoveled out today. Can't disagree with anything you said, man. And I applaud you for not buying the game. Unfortunately, gaming, like we talked about earlier, has somehow managed to insulate themselves to a point where there's no refund, there's no justice for anything that's shitty. The minute you spend the money for the day one game, they already have the money and they're happy. They don't care about what you say. They don't care about Reddit threads. They don't care about Twitter posts. They just want the money. And they have they have built this industry around not giving any money back, not making any promises, only making promises and not delivering on any actual content. And personally, I'm starting to feel like AAA gaming is going to crash at some point in the near future, just because the more and more I watch these shows, I see more and more CG trailers and more delays, and you can't make any money off a game that's not there, guys. So like Ubisoft. Ubisoft is the promise of like 12 games and no actual games. So
we can't even get a Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake from them that they're talking about for 2 years. That's a game that how old? 20 years old?
No, they have 5 games, 5 Assassin's Creed games in the mix. No release dates for any. They have Skull and Bones that's been delayed an ungodly amount of times, and then they just announced the Star Wars game 2 days ago, Star Wars Outlaws, which, yeah.
I haven't even paid attention.
Oh, it's a cool CG trailer. It was a cool CG trailer. I don't believe for a second it's ever coming out, so I have a hard time with that, but. That is it for fan traction. Phil, do you got anything to add to any of that, or should we go to the talking point?
Other than I've kind of done what Jason was saying. I'll spend more than $1 on a game, but as far as waiting, I've saved myself a lot of money and disappointment by waiting to buy games that I thought looked really good and then turned out to be disappointments or not what was promised. And so from that aspect, I agree. I've been playing other than CRPGs and stuff, which I know are at least going to have tons of content in them because it's just the nature of that genre, as we'll talk about here soon. A lot of stuff I've tried lately has been AAA or like single A, double A, indie games, and even if I'm paying full price for them, full price is maybe $30.
I have only paid full price for 2 games this year. One of them was a $70 game. It was WWE 2K23. And honestly, I made a mistake on that. Not because I'm not getting the pleasure or fun out of it, but because they added so much in the coming months and so much patches. I would have really, really saved myself a lot of headaches if I had just, because I was worried about our show, OMGM, like transferring over to the new game. I should have just stuck with 2K22 for 6 more months, done a whole nother season, and then transferred over, which is why me and Jeremy talked about it quite a bit. And when they do 2K24, we are not switching over. We'll finish whatever seasons we're in, and then we won't switch over until like 6 or 7 months later, just because it would have saved me a lot of headache. I think the other game that I paid full price for is one of the games we're going to talk about today, and possibly my game of the year, Age of Wonders 4. So and that game was not $70. It was, I think it's $50. It's $50.
Yeah, I bought it too.
That game. That's a game I'd pay $70 for. Honestly, that's how good that game was, and it's only $50. So yeah. So I definitely try them if they're in Game Pass, but I'm with you guys on the same thing. Like, I'm kind of done, and I've kind of, if anybody's been listening to the podcast, I've been very disillusioned with the AAA games market as a whole. So like the only game I'm considering buying full price is Remnant 2 when it comes out on July 25th.
Yeah, I'm in that boat too, but I'll probably wait at least a week.
Oh yeah.
To see if it's gonna be what I want. Like if it's Remnant 1, sweet. But if Gearbox came in and ruined it, I should be able to make a judgment within a week or so of people getting their hands on it. Then that'll change my decision.
I completely concur with that. The fact that Gearbox is attached to it now makes me really leery. It's not going to be in Game Pass, which is a little annoying. And I think that I'm done pre-ordering games. I'll pay full price if the game looks really good, but I'm done pre-ordering. I'm absolutely done pre-ordering. Unless I am 100% positive that game is going to be good, you're not going to see a dime of my money until after I've seen tons of reviews and been able to watch streamers play it, Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for Fan Attraction, guys. We're going to now talk about strategy. It's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll be right back with that.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to our talking point. We are talking strategy games today. I decided since Neil wasn't going to be here, Philbilly was going to be here, and this is Philbilly's new drug of choice when it comes to video games, that we would just do a strategy game primer. I have dabbled in the strategy game universe in all the different forms. Phil is pro over here, so we're gonna talk about all the different strategy games and all the different types. I think first, before we get into our favorites, we need to do kind of like a primer for those who are not initiated to the heavy strategy game and the subgenres that exist within strategy.
And there's so many subgenres that are kind of mixes between different ones. It's interesting. But yeah, you have. Do you want to just like list off the types?
You got the 4X, right? Which is
your civilization type games. Mm-hmm. And then you have your TRPGs, which is tactical RPGs, which there's always exceptions to the rules, but from what I've seen, those are more like the types of games where you control a crew who aren't necessarily well flushed out characters, but what you're doing is your crew, there's usually like a world ending thing happening in the background, and you're kind of like the overseer of researching, and while your researching is being done, you're sending in little crews of soldiers, or there's all different genres of it. It could be sci-fi, it could be apocalyptic or post-apocalyptic, it could be a lot of things, but you're sending your crew into battles and controlling the 4 to 8 to however many people on a grid usually. And you have much less, in those games, you have much less ties to the character because they're more like units. And then you have your CRPGs, which... Those
are like the same thing, but character-driven.
Yeah, more like your Baldur's Gates and your Wastelands and your the real Fallouts, not the new Fallouts,
right?
But the old Fallouts,
right?
Where you're attached to the characters because they're more RPG like as far as having backstories for each playable character, and then
there's real-time strategy, which is more like it is a war, but it's very, very Twitch-based. You're actually, the units are always moving, you're giving them orders, and they're doing the thing, but you have to stay on top of constantly, like, mining resources and stuff, because everybody's kind of moving at the same time instead of being turn-based.
It's your StarCraft.
Yes, Warcraft, StarCraft, those kind of things.
And then those can kind of correlate into the 4X at times, kind of like the game that Zach really likes. It's a little bit of a mix from what I've played of it, but not, I don't know.
It's very turn-based. I think that like there are definite mixes of the RTS, especially with CRPG stuff, because I think Pillars of Eternity, you can make it kind of real-time strategy instead of...
Well, that's like a CRP. It's like RTS with pause.
Right.
So it's like if you blended RTS with CRPG.
Right.
And then games like Pillars of Eternity, you can turn that off too, and you could have you can play it like a turn.
Like a turn-based, yeah.
Which totally changes what's good and what's not. It depends.
What would you recommend to somebody getting into strategy? What would you recommend right off the bat?
Depends what they like. Like, if you are coming from a... if you like an RPG game, like, with developed characters that have builds, like if that's your jam and you want to try strategy, then I would say go traditional CRPG. Like your Baldur's Gates, your Wastelands, your... Fallouts, old Fallouts.
Wildermyth.
That's a weird hybrid, though, too.
It is. It's very...
Because that's like a CRPG, but because it has the what do you call it?
The
Changes
procedural generation.
Yeah, because it has the procedural generation, it doesn't play quite like a CRPG because your builds are a little more random.
They are.
Depends what they throw at you, which that could be a plus or a negative or just a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Like to me that like I really like that game, but it's a different thing than just a traditional CRPG.
It is. It does get you very attached to the characters, though, just because of the uniqueness and the fact that it generates the stories kind of around it. I would say if you're somebody who like decided to play like SimCity or City Skylines and was like, hey, this is fun, but I kind of also want to kill stuff, then you go for 4X. And Fun fact: I googled what 4X meant. I always thought it was like a magnification thing. You know, like because it's so magnified, you're usually like creating a civilization, obviously, or like running an entire like country. It actually stands for expand, explore, exterminate, and oh my god, something else. Some other E. But it's 4 E's. It's actually... Yes, neither did I. It's actually 4 E's. E words. Like 4X is actually like expand, it's like EX, like 4EX. It's like expand, exterminate, I can't remember. Expand, exterminate, explore, and then some other EX thing. I think that's it's really cool. Really cool from that standpoint. So let's talk about some of our favorites. Should we just go down the line and talk about the ones that we like, maybe the ones that people should get into right off the bat? I think if you're trying to get into CRPGs, I think Wasteland 3 is a good first game. And I actually do think Wildermyth is a good first game because Wildermyth is very simply presented to you.
Myth is a good game, or a good first game.
Yeah.
Divinity: Original Sin is a good first game, and then there's like they can get super complex. Like the Pathfinder ones. Don't start with those. They're great. They're great games, but don't start with them. They are wow. Like there's just everything of the games we just mentioned, they add even more customization, which is cool, but it becomes extremely complicated because those games get really big into deities and then what paths you take, which deities you pick, which paths you take. Like so, it's like if you had a tree of your build, you know, like in a classic RPG, it would be like adding 10 branches off that tree with other trees. They're nuts. They're crazy, crazy big and complex. They're still fun, but
yeah.
And then you gotta watch too if you're getting into CRPGs, because there's a lot of cool, like really good smaller CRPGs that may not be voiced. So that's another thing you got to watch for. Are you willing to do a lot of reading?
Yeah.
Because that's what's nice about the genre is there's a lot of indie companies that make them. There's some weird. There's
War Tales. I know War Tales is one you had mentioned.
War Tales. I played a lot of. You're reading in that. There's some voice stuff in that, but
Wildermyth is very, very heavy in the reading. I will say that too.
Reading in that. Yeah. There's one that's really good. That's like a Russian Fallout, and I can't think of what it's called off the top of my head. It's basically the Nuke Falls, but in Russia, and that's all reading because it was made by a really small team, but it's a good game. Right. And then you have weird stuff like there's even kind of like twin sticky shooter type CRPGs, like your Weird West and stuff. So if you don't like, that's the other cool thing. If you can't deal with turn-based, there's stuff like that, or there's the real-time strategy with pause that you can look into. There's so many branches of CRPG.
Yeah.
So it's something to be conscious about if you're looking to get into the genre. Research the game so you don't end up picking up something that you can't deal with the mechanics of.
Or ask Phil on our Discord, ladies and gentlemen. You could join our Discord. Phil will always answer questions. Not necessarily fast, but he'll get to them. I'm going to say this. I think definitively, like 2 games, if you want to get into that genre, that specific subgenre, I think that you should try is Wasteland 3 and Wildermyth. Wildermyth, the reason that I kind of want to sing its praise, I mean, everybody's heard me talk about Wildermyth a lot on this podcast, but it's probably the only CRPG I stuck with for any period of time, and the reason is something we're going to talk about a lot with time. If you're playing a strategy game, a lot of them require huge amounts of time to get anywhere in the game. Wasteland, as much as I love Wasteland 3, it is a good game to get into as a new person, but the battles can take hours, and then if you lose it, it is disheartening. Whereas with Wildermyth, the battles don't necessarily take hours. They are tough, and they can be disheartening, but the story continues to move. Plus, with the build aspects, as Phil was saying, like there's basically 3 different classes. Every one of the characters that you kind of make fits into one of these classes. And all the characters are procedurally generated, so you can alter anything about them, but you can just take what they give you when you go into the scenario. And then when they level up, 3 random perks come at you. Boom, here you go. This is what you can add to the character from here. And then you pick one, it adds the character, you move on. So there's the time aspect on Wildermyth. While it still has plenty of very long battles that are very in-depth and take a while, it's a little bit better of a management on your time right off the bat. However, I think it's slightly a misrepresentation of the genre. Like, if you play Wildermyth and you're like, oh, CRPGs, that's all it takes, and then you go to Wasteland 3 and you lose your first battle, you're going to be like, oh my god! So, like, I think that, like, time is a huge aspect to strategy games. It's one of the things that I like about Wildermyth as far coming from a person, like, starting the first time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and to say something nice about Wasteland in the same element, as far as the battles go, though, again, they take time, just like Zach said with Wildermyth, but what Wasteland 3 did was they, so a lot of CRPGs are based off of individual initiatives, like of all the characters on the board. But what Wasteland 3 did was they made your initiative a team initiative, which does speed up battles to an extent, because either your team won initiative or your team lost initiative. And in Wasteland 3, you can kind of cheese it, because as long as you get the first shot off before the enemy sees you, you win initiative. But you'll get to move all your chess pieces, all your characters.
Right.
And then the enemy team moves all their characters, instead of it being like your guy, then their guy, then 2 of your guys, then 3 of their guys. Because that can get a little confusing. And Wasteland 3 did something very unique in that aspect that most CRPGs have not adopted yet.
I think you're completely right on that. I will say the moving one whole team and then moving the other whole team, if you move incorrectly, is a real landslide of emotions for me. There was some times where I moved everybody. I'm like, all right, I'm in good position. I take my shots. All right, their turn. And it's like, oh, all right, Steve got hit. Oh, Steve got hit again. I didn't think he could hit him from there. Oh, Steve's dead. Steve's dead. Why is Steve dead? Oh, no. Elizabeth's getting shot. Like, it's just like, oh, none of my plans were right.
That's why if you're getting into those games for the first time and you're not seasoned at all, I'm sure you've heard of the term save scumming. Be prepared to do it, and don't feel ashamed to do it, because otherwise you could get very frustrated, like Zach said. Like if your 30 turns into a fight and then that happens and you wipe because you just made one silly mistake, just hit that F5 or whatever button it is for quick saves between each round. I know it sounds dirty, but especially when you're new, if you're not trying to do some crazy challenge mode or something that allows you to, or disallows you to do that, then safe scumming is your friend.
So let's talk about 4X a little bit.
Okay.
4X, this is probably, of the strategy games, the most I've dabbled in over the years. I've played multiple different Civilization games. I was always a big Civilization fan. And now I'm into Age of Wonders 4 hardcore. But Age of Wonders 4 is actually kind of a hybrid because it allows you to do the battles as a TRPG instead of just like with Civilization. Usually you build these armies, you march the armies in, and then there's like a little animation and one of them die. You're usually looking at a big huge world map, and then you're slowly finding things, building cities, connecting those cities, kind of scanning back.
And the traditional ones, your battles are just based on a troop power level, basically. Yep. Like, if your power level is 90 and theirs are 40, you are going to win because you have the resources to do so.
Yeah.
Whereas in Age of Wonders, you could, in theory, they still have those ratings, but you can go in underrated, make some smart moves, some smart plays, and come out on top. You're probably going to get pretty beat up, but you can do it.
I've actually had a couple where I had to go in and I was underpowered. And while I didn't win, I was able to take out so many units with really smart choices that I was able to then win the overall war with a different set of people.
Something.
So like it's so 4X is something that I really like. I one of the things that I like about 4X is, as far as time is concerned, now Age of Wonders is a little bit of a different beast because of the TRPG parts, but as far as time concerned, there is usually a very significant end to it. Like the way it plays out, it almost plays out like a board game. Like you have, like, there are a couple ways to win. In the old school Civilization, there was the culture victory, the science victory, the military victory, and I think there was one other type of victory. And each victory required you to do a certain number of things, and then once you got to that thing and you did it, you won. And then you would play another game as another character, or another world, or another civilization. And it usually procedurally generates all the land that you're fighting over, which everybody knows I get out of bed for procedural generation. Age of Wonders is a little bit different. The first game I played took me like 30 hours to get through because of all the TRPG stuff. But there is like a very set, here's where the game ends sort of feel to it, which is nice a little bit on that.
But you can still win through different modes.
Yes.
Like, you don't have to kill everybody to win in that game. You could, you can do it by trading and building, like, basically getting other cities or whatever to join you through without just pillaging.
So, fun story. I know a guy. If he listens, Corey, I'm telling your story, buddy. He plays the game with other players, other people, a lot, and it's one of those where you can set that up. And he was playing with like a bunch of other guys. He actually managed to get a military victory without ever actually fighting anyone. The way he did that was he tricked everybody into allying with him. And even though they weren't allied with each other, they were all allied with him. So there was no other military to fight. It counted them all basically as his military, and he won. And he never actually fought anybody. He just convinced them all to ally with him. That kind of stuff is possible in Age of Wonders 4. I will say, if we're looking at it from a starter point of view, right? Like, you've never done 4X ever, I would probably recommend Civilization first. Civilization to me is not a bad game. It's a good, solid game. Yes.
If you've played Risk, you've played Civilization on a board game.
Yeah, basically. It's like a more in-depth Risk. And I've always enjoyed Civilization. I've played multiple Civilizations. I like Civilization. I think Civilization simplifies the genre enough that if you're getting into it for the first time, it's a lot easier to manage. Well, I'm telling you right now, the minute you're done with Civilization, go buy Age of Wonders 4. It is absolutely possibly my game of the year this year. I mean, I don't know what's going to beat it at this point because I just keep sinking hours into it. But
it's a very good game.
There's two things that get me out of bed: procedural generation and customization. This game has an unparalleled level of both. The procedural generation, obviously, for the world. You can also attach all these cool modifiers to your world when you're creating whatever you're going to fight over, which then changes how the world gets created. That's your procedural generation part. The customization part, you literally get to create a fantasy race from ground up. From like moment one, you can change everything about them, their traits, what they look like, how they interact. You can make regal orcs and cannibalistic elves, just anything and everything you create from the ground up there. And that in itself just got me into it. But then, you have all those civilization aspects. Then you also do the TRPG stuff, which gives you this extra level of like being able to win when you necessarily shouldn't. And getting better strategy on somebody and figuring out how to work that. But you also get to go on quests. So there's almost never... Like, Civilization is great, but there's a lot of rounds where it's just you waiting for something to happen. Like, you're waiting for, like, the research to finish so that you can get the spaceship, or you're waiting for this to happen, or you're waiting for this unit to finish being created. Whereas with Age of Wonders 4, there are just constant little, like... little bad guys around the world, little things to pick up, little ancient wonder quests to go on. So you're just constantly doing those. You're never waiting for anything in Age of Wonders 4. It's one of the things that I absolutely love about that game.
You want to know my only downside to those types of games that I've noticed, and it may just be the way I've played, is I start to realize that I can almost guarantee myself victory if I hit goals. Like, so I figured out, like, for instance, in Age of Wonders 4, like, if I can have this done by turn 5, this targeted goal done by turn 10, then I know that I start taking over between turns 11 and 15, and then I need to, build up this resource by turn 20. And that's the only thing that there is a formula to them, and it depends what type of player you are, if you'll notice those formulas or if you think that's good or bad. But that's the only thing with those, is they are formulaic to a point.
Well, and there is a big difference between you and I as players. You are a very mathematically inclined person. That's why you are the build master general. Like, you think of those builds, you think of those formulas. Myself, on the other hand, when I go into it, I just want to role play the gold craving, mole person, and that makes the experience, I would say, a little bit more interesting for me on that level, because of the fact that I'm just like... One thing I didn't like about Age of Wonders 4 is you can't win an allied victory via score for whatever reason. If you're allied with somebody who has the highest score when the turn limit ends, they just win the game, and you don't get it. However, if you turn the scored victory off and leave the other victory things, it becomes really interesting, because it could go like 70 turns, it could go like 250 turns. You can help other people. I really love to play characters that like help other people like accomplish their goals, and then that allows me to win, which is just not a way that you would necessarily play the game. You know what I mean? From that aspect, you're looking at it like, okay, mathematically, this is what I got to do to win. Whereas I just don't think in those numbers, and because of that, I think it's just a very different experience for the two of us. But you're right.
Still a great game.
Yeah. No, I know you're not. You're 100% right. Like, it's definitely like if you have a very mathematical formulaic brain, you might enjoy it, but it is a math problem, and once you figured that math problem out, it is hard to, unring that bell. Okay, I mean, there's RTSs, but I don't play a lot of RTSs. I played a lot when I was a kid.
I've tried to do the RTS with pause things recently.
Right.
But back when I was younger, I was huge into StarCraft. I loved that game.
Yeah, same here.
Like, I was Zerg all the way. I knew exactly how to do it. But I haven't played any since then, and I tried to play, like, Pillars on RTS with pause. It's fine when I'm going against the mobs of just, weak enemies.
Mm-hmm.
But it's too much for me when I'm doing a boss fight or something in those games. I feel like I just want it to be turn-based, but it's not, so I'm pausing so much because I want to micromanage the shit out of every unit.
Right.
That I start to get a little...
I played a lot of StarCraft as a kid. We actually, in our high school, had this club that we would get together after school, and we would reroute all the computers in the social studies lab and the computer lab to be... Basically, we'd link them to play StarCraft, like 8-person, 12-person StarCraft. And while I have a lot of fun with those experiences, I never won. I always got wiped out first and foremost. Everybody seemed to have a strategy or a specialty. Like, my brother was really good at making battleships for the Terrans, and then this other guy I knew named John was really good with Zerg, and then this other guy I knew named Jeremy was just amazing at sneaking ghosts into people's bases and dropping nukes on people. And then me, my specialty was just basically being dead for most of the game. I can't do it fast enough. Can never get a Terran to work?
No, I could never get Terran to work. I could play the fast rush with Zerg if I wanted an early game, victory, or I'd play Protoss and build defenses early and then amass my army and do a late game sweep. But I could never... Terran was kind of the middle ground,
Yeah.
And I either wanted to play fast and hard or slow and powerful, and I couldn't do the middle ground.
My brother was all about battleships, the big battleships that you could build, and he would end up like, it was like a matter of time. You'd be sitting there and you just watch the fleet roll in and then just wipe you out. Johnny was the Zerg fast player. If he picked you to be the first person to be dead, you were always mad because you were out first. But Jeremy played Terrans, and he was just really good at sneaking those like stealth units into your base and dropping and dropping nukes on people. And like I finally switched to Protoss at one point and just had little like monitors everywhere, and somehow that motherfucker still would move ghosts into my base, and you just hear it. You'd hear the nuclear launch detected, and you're like, oh no! How'd he get in? And then you're done. But yeah,
build those towers to see the ghosts.
I cannot. I'm not fast enough. It's just
Dude,
I'm not fast enough.
Fast back in the day, like I knew all the, like B,
the special keys and stuff.
BY, and I don't know them anymore.
I can't do that shit. I could not do that. I'm just dragging the mouse back around, and everybody's just coming in and killing me. Like, what are you still doing with the mouse, dude? Like, it was ridiculous. But all right, well, I think we've covered strategy. Your all-time favorite strategy game for mini genre. Let's do that to finish. And then we'll go to news.
Can I say one more thing about RPGs, though?
Fuck yeah.
This is why, of the genres we've talked about, CRPGs are my favorite, because the the people who develop these games, it amazes me of all the stuff that's in them. So even like the ones that they're not, what's the thing you always like? I always forget. Like,
procedural generation.
Procedural generation, yeah. You can play these games and never play the same, even though they're not procedurally generated. Like, there's so much shit in them and ways to, like, say you have a fight. Like, this is just an example of early access Baldur's Gate 3. There's this section of the game where you have to infiltrate this goblin fortress. And there's 10 different ways to get in. You know, you could pretend to ally with the goblins, so they let you in. There's some back doors you can sneak in. There's a bunch of different ways. But, so, in one of my playthroughs, I had pretended to ally with them, so they let me in the front gate. But I knew with what I was going to do when I got in there that they were going to turn on me. And I noticed in this one section, they were all partying in this big open courtyard, and nothing tells you to do this, but I'm looking around and there are all these goblins are drinking and stuff, and then you scroll your mouse over this thing and it's like a trough of booze basically that you could go take a drink, and then it lets you interact with it. And I see that it has this section to add stuff. And I'm like, what the fuck? What if I put this poison that's in my inventory into the booze? I'm like, there's no way it'll let me do this, right? And it does. It lets me combine my poison with the booze. And then I like walk my character away and they all go partying. And all of a sudden, 3 minutes later, these goblins start dropping dead and you see their health bars go into half and stuff. And they have no idea because they didn't see me put the poison in the booze. So I just made that because I knew I was going to have to fight these guys, and there's like 50 of them. I'm like, I'm never going to be able to win this. But because I did that, it cut their numbers down to like 15. And of those 15, they were all sick and stuff. So when I did have to fight them, they were already like half health, and I just wiped the floor with them. But that's what I mean, like there's so many ways. I probably could have done my mission that I came to do and snuck out the back, so I didn't have to fight them at all. But because I just looked at my surroundings, spent a little time, you can find ways around shit. Like, and you might find a chandelier hanging above this boss that you know you're gonna try to fight, and you might be able to hide in the shadows and take a sneak attack, or have your archer shoot at the chandelier, and the chandelier falls and kills 10 guys on the ground that you would have had to deal with one way or the other. So that's what I love about the CRPGs. It's amazing to me that the developers put so much into these games. It truly feels like when you're playing a TTRPG and you stump the game master or the dungeon master by saying like, well, can I do this? And you see their face go, oh shit, I didn't think my player would do. Like, that's the feeling, and they somehow build that into the game. Like, they, because as a dungeon master, you expect your players to do one thing, and they never fucking do.
Right.
So you have to do it on the fly. Well, somehow these people actually programmed this stuff into the game, and that's what I truly love about it. Plus, I love building, and there's always tons of build possibilities in those games.
Well, yeah. That's all really cool, and I do echo that. They always put in a lot of like extra detail to their stuff, which is just really, really cool to see, like all the ways you can attack stuff and whatnot. But that's it for strategy, guys. Hopefully this helped you guys out. Oh wait, your best strategy ever. You we glazed over that.
Yeah, I'll So which genre do you want to start with?
Oh no, the number one all time strategy.
Currently, this is subject to change, though.
Of course.
Because I think Baldur's Gate 3 is gonna take over, but it's not fully out yet, so I can't say that. But currently, Divinity: Original Sin 2, I think, narrowly beating out Wasteland 3 for me.
That's a good choice.
It's a Larian Studios game. It's complex enough to make it interesting, but not as complex as the Pathfinder games, so I can at least wrap my head around everything that's going on. It gives you lots of choices, lots to interact with, different paths to take to get to the same conclusion. Great RPG elements as far as character backstories. Even if you make a created character, they have a good general backstory built in so that you can have your imaginative character relate to what's going on around you.
That's awesome. Mine, surprisingly, is still Wildermyth. Well, unsurprisingly, I guess. The Age of Wonders 4 is probably my favorite right now, but the fact that Wildermyth uses procedural generation in its storytelling, and it is as good as it is just mind-blowing. Like, it really attaches you to your characters when you go in, and then you watch them go through the trials and tribulations of what they go through. Some of them die, some of them don't make it, some of them have kids that join your party. And it's just, I don't know. That game is still going to have a special place in my heart for a long time. Age of Wonders 4 is right there, but if I got to go all time, it's got to be Wildermyth.
Good choice.
All right, let's pause it and come back with the news, and then we'll wrap this sucker up.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, so that brings us to our final segment, that is news. We are going to go ahead and tell you guys all the news stories that we've collected that we feel that we should let you guys know about. And Phil actually has one, so we're going to let him open it off. Since I got 5, might as well just get that one out the way.
All right, so it's a Call of Duty related thing where...
Yay, Activision, our favorite subject.
So, regardless of how you guys feel, I'm not getting into any personal thoughts, but so what happened, Nick Merckx is a huge Call of Duty, and I believe he plays, there's another shooter that I'm not as familiar with, very popular, can't think of it. But anyways, guy just had a kid. I don't know what exactly was happening I do know, but I can't recall everything. There was a slight conversation being had revolving around Pride Month or something, and all he said was, someone asked for a statement on it, and he said, "There's no hate in my heart. I love everybody. As a new father, I just think kids should be left out of some of this stuff." That was basically all he said. And Call of Duty, in turn, they removed his character. Like, you could buy a Nick Merckx package and play as his guy. They removed him from the e-store, or from the Call of Duty store, and basically he was like, "Fine, fuck you." He deleted Call of Duty from his game, or from his hard drive, until Call of Duty will retract what they did. And I guess the good thing is people are at least starting to stand up for what they may believe or what they think is fair. And what they didn't foresee happening was Dr. Disrespect saw it happen, and he also joined the boycott in boycotting Call of Duty, which is huge because he is by far the biggest Call of Duty streamer. Nick Merckx was up there too.
Yeah, I know Dr. Disrespect. I didn't know Nick Merckx.
And then when Dr. Disrespect did it, then Tim the Tap Man, another big one who's hilarious.
I know Tim the Tap Man. Yeah,
he did it too, and now it's like they're sticking to their guns, and these guys are big enough that they can monetarily afford to do it. And like I said, wherever you fall on the Pride Month stuff, that's not really the point. The point is just he didn't say anything negative to anyone other than he said, as a new father, I wish they would let kids be kids, basically.
Yeah.
And I give props to these guys for at least standing up for what they believe, whether you guys think that's good or bad. It's their their right to not have things that they don't believe in forced down their throat, and it seems like a lot of other people agreed with them. So that's all I got.
I think it's interesting. It's an interesting case. I had not heard of it. I'm for.
Just happened a couple days ago.
I'm obviously for pride and all of that. I think that there is something to be said about how somebody wants to raise their kid, and there's also something to be said about this is a tough subject to talk about, but like it's
trying to get in.
No, I know. I think that there's a tricky level of like where our society is, where anybody saying anything that's not necessarily negative turns into something negative. And I think that's like we're a country of a lot of different people and a lot of different races and nationalities, sexes, and all sorts of crazy shit. It's constantly evolving. There has to be room for other point of views, especially if somebody isn't directly insulting anybody or like being mean about it. I think that like one thing I don't like about this, which I think you're right about, is I don't think that Activision has any right to police that sort of thing. You're a game creator and they're a streamer. You don't have the right to like decide that stuff for people, you know? Like
the other problem too is, I hate to tell you guys, whether you love the Pride stuff or you dislike it, I can promise you Activision doesn't give a shit about it.
They don't.
They don't. Yeah. They are doing it because they're essentially told through ESG scores and a bunch of other stuff that that's what they should be doing.
Right.
They don't actually have any...
I mean, obviously they don't. They're sitting in their companies raping people. They don't give a shit about people. Like, there's no way that, like, they then care about it. They're just... Somebody told them that it was good for business to do that, and that's what they did. I think that, like, that kind of stuff... I definitely hate that. I hate it whenever a company decides to take a stance on something just to make money off of it. Like, I think that defeats the purpose of the people who are fighting for the stance, too, you know? Like, I wouldn't want Activision to side with me, ever. Like, they're a terrible, horrible fucking company, you know? So it's a tough subject. It's a tough subject, but that is
all
interesting.
I was saying was the good thing. Like, I think on both sides of the fence, regardless of where you are, sometimes people just get sick of corporations shoving any... Like, let corporations be corporations and not politicians, and people just don't, they want to play their game without having anything shoved down their throat.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with that. I completely agree with that. My stuff, we start with July 25th is our release date for Remnant 2. It is not going to be in Game Pass, ladies and gentlemen, though. No Game Pass announcement whatsoever for it, whereas the first one was. Although I think the first one did come to Game Pass. I don't know if that was originally actually in Game Pass, but yeah.
It was.
Was it originally in Game Pass? I can't remember. But yeah, Remnant 2 will not be on Game Pass, which actually surprised me a little bit.
I've actually canceled mine recently just because I haven't been getting out of it what, you know.
Oh, the Game Pass?
Yeah.
I mean, that's fair. If it doesn't have the games for you.
If it has something come in, I can always sign back up.
This is true.
That's my thought.
They make it very easy. Then moving on, we've got Conquest mode in Marvel Snap is being added. So, for Marvel Snap people out there, I like Marvel Snap and still play it. They've had your normal game is ranked. You can't play like a casual. You can play a casual game against friends, but only if you know the friend. But they're adding a specific ranking mode called Conquest mode, where each month, each season, you'll be entered into this tournament kind of thing. I'm kind of excited for it. I do love Snap. I have some really good decks in there. I'm kind of excited to see where I go. And I think that Snap continues to be one of the better mobile games. It doesn't have a lot of the evil shit in it. Even sometimes in stupidity levels, I feel like you could easily put evil shit here, and you're not. I don't know why, but they've managed to make it relatively accessible. I mean, obviously there's microtransactions. It's a mobile card game. But I think on the front, it's relatively better than most other games. They give you more stuff, I guess. But I'm excited for the Conquest mode of Marvel Snap. Have you ever tried Marvel Snap, man?
I have not. Yeah, I haven't really played any mobile games lately. I haven't had a whole lot of time as of late to play much of anything. It's a struggle just to get a few hours, but yeah, I haven't really played any mobile games in the past few years, so no, I haven't tried it out.
I still enjoy that one. That one's just sticking with me. This next one, I'm really excited about. TMNT Shredder's Revenge is getting DLC, and
nice.
that DLC looks awesome. There's going to be a new game mode, new color schemes for everybody involved. New stuff to do in it, but in addition, you're getting a whole nother character. They're adding Usagi Yojimbo, a long-time requested TMNT character. The Samurai Bunny Rabbit is making his appearance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know that guy's name. I know who he is, but...
Usagi Yojimbo. Funny story, Usagi Yojimbo is not originally a Turtles character. He is a character that did a bunch of crossovers with the Turtles, but he wasn't actually part of the Mirage or the Ninja Turtles at any point in time. But yeah, Usagi Yojimbo is getting his own. He's going to be a character in it. He's going to be the 7th playable character. What's really interesting about this DLC trailer that I watched too is they pointed out, and it's coming real soon this month. I cannot remember the date, but real soon this month. What's really interesting about this, too, is they pointed out new characters. They said with an S in the trailer, but then only announced Usagi Yojimbo. So I have to...
May slowly some more.
I feel like we're going to get another character leak right before the thing comes out. They're going to be like, oh, and by the way, here's another character. I don't know what they would do. Maybe Mondo Gecko. Fingers crossed. But I don't know what they do other than Usagi, because they've got a lot of the characters already right in there. Moving on. This next one's fun. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. We have talked about this game multiple different times throughout the history of this podcast. I think since before this podcast started, this game was rumored. Basically, it is a sequel to a role-playing game that's highly regarded, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. This game has been in development forever. They delayed it a bunch of times. It was supposed to come out 1 year. Then they delayed it indefinitely. Then the company that makes Vampire Bloodlines 2 disintegrated. And the parent company was like, oh, it's still coming. But now they... in a new development in complete and total confusion, they decided to issue everybody who had pre-ordered it a refund. So that makes you think the game doesn't exist, right? Okay, it's not coming, right?
Yeah.
In the same time, though, they released a bunch of screenshots from the game. New screenshots from the game, never before seen screenshots, and said, it's definitely coming. We want to issue a refund because the pricing is probably going to change. And
so they're going to raise it.
Yeah, probably. And we're going to and we're committed to like not to giving you guys the best experience, that kind of bullshit. But
that's so dirty.
It is.
They're gonna raise the fucking price, and they wouldn't even let the people who bought in at the lower price get grandfathered in. I guarantee you that's why they did that.
I might be inclined to agree with you. Part of me also thinks this game is never going to come out and it's not real.
It's another possibility. But I think if it is, that's what's going to happen. And to be that petty that they wouldn't have given those other players that had bought in for nothing at this point the $10 off or whatever, they're gonna hike the price. I just have a feeling that's what
yeah, it's possible. It's definitely possible. And then finally, a little bit of negativity. We got Street Fighter DLC bullshit. So the Street Fighter community, we've already had problems with 6 because 6, from what I understand, is a decent game. It redefines the genre. It's a 9 out of 10 on IGN, so whatever that's worth to you. But there have been a lot of issues with the way Capcom is handling their DLC, their season passes, all of that stuff. We already talked about it a little bit with the Day 1 DLC characters. However, here's what's interesting is, so they announced all those characters for supposedly Day 1 DLC, right? Then they said, you get this, then they offered this like huge big pass. I can't remember what it is, but like the how an edition pre-order season pass thing. This thing came with a certain amount of in-game currency, something like 8,000, and then, which is supposedly high, but that's all they said. It's going to come with this in-game currency 8,000 before the game came out, of course. It's also going to include X DLC, whatever. With the game released, and the people are like, where are our characters? And Capcom's like, they're not out yet. And they're like, well, yeah, but you promised them Day 1, so we bought this pack for the Day 1 characters, and now you're not releasing the Day 1 DLC characters? But it goes even further than that, because somebody did the math on the 8,000 in-game tokens, which sounds high, right?
Yeah, depending.
It costs 500 of those tokens to buy a new color scheme. Somebody actually did the math and said that 8,000 is barely enough to buy one character's color schemes, all of them. So it is nothing.
It's 500 per color scheme?
Yeah, like something like that.
There's going to have multiple.
Yep. So if you want one character, all their color schemes, it's barely enough to get all of that. So 8,000 sounded really high, but then when the game came out, it was 500 per thing that you were buying. So 8,000 is nothing. So the people who bought this huge $80, $90 edition are like, what the fuck? You didn't give us anything. We spent an extra $40 on this. We have nothing to show for it. Which, going back to what I said many times during this show and previous shows, ladies and gentlemen, if you want things to change in video games, you have to not buy the games. You have to not buy the games. Don't pre-order them, step 1. Step 2, don't buy it if it's shitty. It's that simple. We got to stop pre-ordering games, and we got to stop buying games that aren't good and or that do something evil. Even if it's good and it does a shitty evil thing, if you buy the game and it's doing that shitty evil thing, and it could be good, but if it does it, every other game goes, we could do that now. And that's that was a huge part of my whole rant on the Tears of the Kingdom thing. Tears of the Kingdom is a fine sequel. It's a fine sequel. I've seen gameplay of it. I'm boycotting it, but I've seen gameplay of it. Game Grumps is playing it right now. Everybody knows I religiously watch them. They're playing it right now. I've seen it. It's a fine sequel. It is $10 more for no reason. No reason whatsoever. It is not an upgrade. It is not graphically superior to the first one. It is literally the same game with one new ability, from what I can tell. Same art, same UI, same systems, everything. Which is fine for a sequel if it's the same price. But they raised the price $10 for no reason. When you buy that game, it literally says to them, we can do that. We can raise the price if we feel like it for no apparent reason. And that's the kind of stuff to make a stand. You have to make a stand, and unfortunately, gaming is so insulated in this no refund bullshit policy. The only way to say no is to never buy it in the first place. You know.
You know, that always bothered me with that. Like, I think the $10 price hike was crap, anyways.
Yeah.
Just from the standpoint of. It'd be one thing if you were buying these games and they were complete at launch, but they never are. And every game has some sort of, well, I shouldn't say every, but many games have some sort of in-game store that you can spend additional money on. So you can't say it's not like they were making their money off of it, especially when you look at how profitable these studios are.
Yeah.
But for Nintendo... not to defend Xbox or PlayStation, but at least
there's new technology there.
Yeah, as devil's advocate, there's new technology.
Yep.
For Nintendo to join on that is so disingenuous. They can't. They don't have the hardware.
No.
To justify, even if their justification would be bullshit, they got nothing.
I mean, plus the game takes up almost all of your fucking space on a Switch. I think that, like, yeah, you're working with, like, ancient technology and just raising the price. They're literally weaponizing people's love. That's what they're doing. They're taking your love of something and weaponizing it against you. That just irks me. And yes, you're 100% right. There's no reason for the $10 price hike for Xbox or PlayStation games either, especially when they're like, oh, we're leveraging the new technology, and all of these fucking games come out on the old systems anyway, because they couldn't sell the new consoles. Like, it's absolute garbage bullshit. But at least, if you wanted to play, like you said, devil's advocate, you could say, well, there's new hardware here that I'm playing with, graphical upgrades that I'm playing with. Okay, fine. It's a little bit better than this version. There's nothing better about this game. There's nothing better about this game than the last game. I mean, it's different. It's more content than the last game. I won't argue that. It's a solid sequel. There's nothing different from this game from the last game. Nothing. Other than the ability to make penis robots. But I mean, and that's fair, but I'm not paying an extra $10 to make penis robots. Like, it's just not. It's not. That's the only new power from what I can tell. It doesn't do anything for me whatsoever. It's not different. It's the same game with a new storyline, a new UI, and some new locations. That's what it is. It's the same game, and that just drives me nuts.
Nintendo pissed me off back when they took Pokemon to the Switch too, because like it was one thing when, you know how like a full price game on a handheld wasn't the same as a full price game on a console. So you always had like your two versions, but that they would like lock certain monsters behind each version. But at least the versions weren't so expensive. Well, when they took it over to Switch, they just made those full-price games, but then did the same shit. And then started adding DLC to Pokemon, and it was like, I know might be nerdy to say, but I always liked Pokemon, but I'm like, I can't justify spending $100 on
a Pokemon game. Right.
Game. Are you kidding me?
Right.
Yeah.
The last one was broken as shit anyway.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Nintendo's they're all dirty. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. Nintendo sold cardboard to kids.
I hate how they're all dirty, but Nintendo somehow seems to like try to slide on, at least from my perspective.
Yeah.
They try to slide under the radar as not being dirty.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not sure how they're able to do it. Maybe it's just because of, older gamers maybe being a little blinded by
nostalgia or whatever. They want you to think that the cute, super fun place, it was the same thing when they sent that cease and desist to the dolphin people. Yeah. And they're like, oh, it stifles...
It was going to happen.
Right.
Everyone knew.
You knew it was going to happen, but they're like, oh, it stifles creativity, plus we respect our devs. okay, then why are we getting all these reports of like overwork and shitty hours and shitty working conditions? Do you respect your devs enough to protect the IP that they don't get any money for? You get all the money for, but you don't respect your devs enough to treat them good. Like, Nintendo is bullshit, and they sold cardboard to kids for $100 a pop. I can never get over that. Never get over that fucking shit. But yeah. Alright. So that's it. That's the show. We are going to take a quick break. We'll come back with our plugs, and then we'll wrap this buddy up.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
That brings us to the end of the show, ladies and gentlemen, and the shameless self-promotion that comes with it. Phil, my friend and compatriot, what would you like to plug?
I do have plugs.
Yeah!
So they're more, for now, on the TTRPG side of the channel, but I do implore you guys to give a chance to Astral Drive. We're on episode, I think, 5 will be this week.
That's correct.
Even if you can't join, we'd love to have you join us live at 9:30 on Wednesdays every other week. But if you can't join live, at least if you get a chance to watch the playback video, leave us a comment. Let us know you were there. Tell us if you're enjoying it. I'm having a lot of fun. I actually really like my character and the story where it's going, and we have it's me, Wiz, Wizard's Respite, and Aether Dios playing. It's a really good crew. Everybody gets along. We have some laughs, and the story's really good. So I do ask that you guys check that out and let us know what you think. And then I do not know when this will be coming out, but I have been invited, if you guys have watched Zach and Wizard's one-on-one sessions. They played through TMNT and Other Strangeness, and they have decided to continue their storyline that they had going on with that, and I was invited to join. So I will be playing a alligator man in the TNT Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle universe. So that'll be fun to get into. Like I said, not sure when that will air, but keep an eye out for that.
That's going to be sometime later this month, but we'll definitely probably get the first one in this month. I'm super excited about that. I'm super excited about both those things. He has plugged 2 things I was going to plug, so that's exciting. I don't have to do that now, but we are enjoying that. Me and Phil are making his alligator crocodile man on Tuesday, which I'm very excited about. It's been a real buzz for me to play that game again, and me and Wiz just couldn't put it down. So we invited Philbilly in. Chaos will ensue. The Stump Girls and Tex will be back. Other things to plug on my side. Mondays, 1 to 3. I know it's a weird time. Watch the playback, please. I am streaming my most recent... I have a game company, Axiom Games LLC. Our most recent release was Getting Over, which is a solo wrestling promoter simulation journaling game. It's a mouthful, but that's what it is. The only of its type, I believe. And it is a lot of fun. Myself and Josh, we literally run wrestling promotions. We call the matches. We book them. We then deal with the problems that come up with the wrestling promotion. It's a lot of fun. And if the game interests you, head on over to Drive-Thru Games. Type in Getting Over in the search bar. I will be the first one that comes up. It is only $4 to take a try at it. And any additions I make to it, you will get for free once you've paid the $4. So I would appreciate it. That's it for the TTRPG stuff. On the video game front, we are still doing OMGM, Old Man General Manager, myself, Grandpa Gamer. We book against each other in WWE 2K23. It is a lot of fun, and you guys continue to enjoy it, which is great. Prelude to Divorce comes out every Sunday. That's where I force my wife, who is not a gamer, to play games with me, and she makes fun of me. That's really the show, and it's a lot of fun. Come check it out. And then Redfall Down is on a slight break due to vacation constrictions, but since you all decided to watch it, we will be continuing to do that. That comes out on Saturdays. As far as streaming goes, I have cut back on streaming because, good Lord, I needed to make some time for myself. But I will be doing some video game streaming coming up, and probably on Tuesday, somewhere there. I don't know what it's going to be, but I like video game streaming. It's just we weren't getting as many views on it, and something had to give for the channel. This, of course, comes out on all the audio places on Tuesdays and then on YouTube on Wednesdays. We appreciate all you guys listening. Comment below. Tell us what your favorite strategy game is. We'd love to hear about it. I will read all your comments, and we will talk about them next week. Neil will be back next week. I want to give a big thanks to Philbilly, the Buildmaster General, for coming on, filling in for Neil today. I appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a fun topic for me to talk about.
The minute you were coming on, I was like, that's going to be the topic, because I'm really into Age of Wonders 4 right now. So I was like, we're going to do it. A strategy game primer. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you can reach us on Facebook at OldManGamingDH, on Twitter at OldManGaming9. You can join our Discord, links in the description below. Influence us in all of our shows from there. And as long as you keep watching and listening, well, by God, I'm going to keep making them. See you guys next time.
Later, old man fam.
All right, my friend, we are done, sir.
Alrighty.
So Tuesday for the character creation.
Yep.
All right.
Wednesday for Astral Drive.
Wednesday for Astral Drive, and all your spells are wrapped up, so we're all good to go on that.
Pickles has joined.
Pickles!
I have no idea why I named him
It's hysterical, and
that. I think I was thinking of Murder Pickle from Monster Hunter.
Devil Joe. I almost called it out. I was almost like, did he just name him after Devil Joe? Yeah, but yeah, I love that Pickles is in there. Pickles is fun. So yeah, we will play. I do want to say one thing. That companion that I did give you, he is not a normal companion. I definitely wrapped up some story elements in him, so just keep that in mind.
With them being owned before.
Yeah. So just keep that in mind in the future, because the animal companion perk is like, it's like 100% loyal. I'm like, okay, we'll see how that works. But just keep that in mind. I don't want to go into it, but I definitely don't want like a situation to arise and you'd be like, look, motherfucker, your perk is your perk. But all right, buddy. Well, I'm gonna let you go.
Alrighty.
Thanks for doing this again. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, man. I'll talk to you later.
Alright, later.
Tell you, being home from vacation is weird. I don't know if you have this effect, but doesn't it always feel like your house is different from when you left?
Yeah.
Like, it feels like I walked out onto the deck and I looked at Melissa. I was like, this deck feels bigger. Why does this deck feel bigger? And she's like, it doesn't feel bigger to me. And I was like, all right, I guess I'm crazy.
I'm also weird on vacation, too, by, like, like, Jacqueline could go on vacation for 3 weeks. I can't do it.
No.
I'm weird by, like, day 5 or something. I don't necessarily want to go back to work.
But you want to go home.
I just want to go back to, I don't want, like, normalcy or reality, I guess.
We actually came home a day early because we got homesick a little bit. And we had seen everything we had seen, and then it was like Friday morning, and, we weren't going to do anything. We had already said we weren't going to do anything on Friday but relax. I'm just like, and I was like, honestly, I'm a little homesick. I kind of want to go home. I kind of want to play video games. I kind of want to, like, do stuff again. And she's like, well, we could just drive through the night. And I was like, is that something you want? She's like, actually, I'm kind of ready to go home. So I kind of get that. That was an interesting experience, though. Just driving through the night in our 40s is very different from driving through the night in our 20s when we used to do it, or 30s back when we used to do it. And I had the weirdest interaction at a gas station at 4 in the morning, because I could not, like, sleep in the car, like, at all. But I ended up going in to pee, and I'm in the pee, and I'm like, I'm gonna get a Mellow Yellow, I'm gonna get some M&Ms for Melissa because I could tell she was getting a little tired, and then I'm gonna try and get a neck pillow for Stella. So I get these things, and I walk up to the front, and then there's just this trucker in front of me who is blown away by the fact that his, 50-cent huge jug of chocolate milk doesn't go bad until 2024. Which, to me, I'm just sitting there, I'm like, you're paying 50 cents for a gallon of chocolate milk. That's not milk. It's never been milk. It's never been milk. That's fucking yoo-hoo, dude. It's never going to go bad. But he's telling people about it next to him or whatever. So then, and to set this up, I'm wearing a pink shirt. You remember the walk for breast cancer awareness?
Yeah.
That we did with Jacqueline? I'm wearing that shirt, that pink shirt. I walk up to the front just exhausted. And I start to ring up. This is what the cashier says to me. He looks at me and he goes, "Who are you supporting for breast cancer?" It's 4 a.m. I don't even realize I have the shirt on. I'm just staring at him I'm thinking it's one of those things where it's round up for breast cancer or something, but he's worded it wrong. And I'm just sitting there what? How? What? And he's just kind of staring at me. And then finally I realize I'm wearing the shirt. I'm like, oh, the shirt. Yeah, no, I did this walk about I think it was 4 years ago for breast cancer awareness, and it was a friend of mine. She, got a bunch of people out there to do it. So he then looks at me and goes, "My friend's mother, who was like a mother to me, she had breast cancer, terrible breast cancer, and had to have both of her breasts removed." And I am just, yeah, that's how he said it though. And he's just sitting, he says that, and I'm just sitting there what is happening? It is 4 a.m, man. I can't be the guy that you need to talk to about this. Plus, it sounds like she's still alive, man. It sucks that she lost her boobs, but this is a lot of drama for her, for her still being alive, man. So I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, yeah, man, that's terrible. That's absolutely terrible. It was just the weirdest serious conversation out of nowhere. It's very strange.
After the milk. Maybe that's what brought it on.
The milk. Right?
Think of, have you seen the Aubrey Plaza commercial where she's making fun of how there's a new milk it's a got milk commercial. She did it and they were making fun of how now there's fucking almond milk and this milk,
soy milk
this
and yeah
milk and she did that wood milk commercial.
No, I haven't.
It's a got milk commercial, but she's advertising this new company that she bought into that it's called Wood Milk, and they just show a tree between a press and it's this shit that looks totally unedible, and it's a full-length commercial, and by the end she's like, yeah, I mean, it all tastes like shit, I mean, unless you like wood. And then it just flashes to got milk.
Oh my god, that's amazing. I gotta look that up.
It's